Support for this podcast comes from the Central Valley Journalism Collaborative, connecting communities with the resources, infrastructure, and networks to ensure a vibrant local free press.
From KVPR in Fresno, this is Central Valley Daily. It's Thursday, March 27th. I'm Elizabeth Arkalian. Being a working parent is a common struggle, and it's all too familiar to Mary Louise Kelly.
I've had more than one moment where I've thought, as a journalist, I'm good at my job, I work really hard at my job, but I am dispensable. Somebody else could get on that plane. Nobody else can be a mom to my kids.
Coming up, we speak with one of NPR's most prominent journalists about how she finds balance in life and work and how she's learned to sometimes say no. But first, these news headlines. A Democratic National Political Action Committee is looking to flip vulnerable Republican seats in Congress. KVPR's Crescencio Rodriguez Delgado reports one of those seats is in the Valley.
The group known as Emily's List is laying the groundwork for the 2026 midterm elections, and one of the Republicans they're hoping to unseat is David Valadao of Hanford. He's a Republican in a Democratic-leaning district. Valadao lost his seat in 2018 but regained it in 2020. He has managed to hold on to it ever since, despite persistent challenges by Democrats. Valadao has remained a largely moderate Republican. He even voted to impeach President Trump in 2021 over January 6th. But issues like Medicaid cuts proposed by Republicans could have significant local impacts, and that has put Valadao back in the hot seat. Emily's List is also targeting 3 other California Republicans, including Kevin Kiley, Young Kim, and Ken Calvert. For KVPR News, I'm Crescencio Rodriguez Delgado.
California says the federal government is cutting funding for the state's COVID-19 response. The California Department of Public Health said via email this week that it received notice the programs would be cut immediately by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The funding goes to virus monitoring, testing, and response. It also covers vaccines for children and public health work related to COVID-19. Director Dr. Erica Pan said in a statement that the California Department of Public Health is working to evaluate the impact of the cuts. She did not disclose the total amount. The statement did not give a reason for the cuts either. Our news partner Cap Radio reached out to the CDC for comment, but has not heard back. State Assembly member Dr. Joaquin Arambula has introduced a bill that would directly challenge plans by the mining giant Cemex to blast for gravel near the San Joaquin River. Assembly Bill 1425 seeks to ban a specific mining procedure needed by Cemex to deepen its blast mining work. Our news partner Fresno Land reports that Fresno Mayor Jerry Dyer supports the bill. The plans by Cemex have been met with controversy ahead of key decisions by members of the Fresno County Board of Supervisors who support the project. State officials will get another look at the Sierra Nevada snowpack tomorrow. This is the 4th snow survey of the season, and it's considered the most important one. April's typically the peak of seasonal snowpack, and this survey gives state officials the clearest picture of water availability. It also helps them forecast the water supply for the year. The survey comes just before a new storm system is set to arrive early next week.
Raise a glass with KVPR, Sunday afternoon, May 4th, for KVPR's wine tasting and more, featuring fine wines from California and beyond, local craft beer, delicious food, live music, and a silent auction, all on the amazing grounds of the Lester Estate in Fresno, where Van Ness Extension meets the San Joaquin River. All proceeds benefit KVPR, so purchase your tickets today at kvpr.org/wine.
And now to our main story. Mary Louise Kelly has worn many hats in her lifetime: producer, Pentagon correspondent, adjunct professor, author. And if you're a regular NPR listener, you might know her most as the host of the afternoon show All Things Considered. Despite all those titles and positions, there's one that she holds most dear: being a mom. In her book, It Goes So Fast, Mary Louise explores the struggle of trying to balance being a prominent national reporter while raising 2 sons. To discuss her book and her thoughts on journalism in today's political landscape, Mary Louise recently joined our producer, Jonathan Linden, for a conversation.
We're in a significant moment right now when it comes to how the public views what they see as mainstream media. And just because you host the primetime show for a national outlet, there might be some who might be inclined to not trust you because of your role. Does it impact how you conduct yourself at all as a host and when you're doing interviews?
Well, I will say I'm glad you raised the issue of trust because it's a critical one. And certainly there is growing distrust of the media, but beyond that, just institutions more broadly. Part of the answer to that, I hope, is, the job of what you do is local news. I mean, I think about this. The local news at its most basic is sharing news of a community. And it's verifiable. If somebody in local news tells you the traffic light in front of the school is out, you can see it. You can verify it yourself. You probably also live, down the block from the person. Maybe your kids go to school together. There is a baseline of trust and firsthand knowledge there that absolutely, gets diluted when you talk about the national media or people talking about reporting international news. But that baseline, if people have local news in their community, it builds some trust, I hope, in the institution. The other thing, just by way of commenting on that, is, we're aware at NPR that there are issues with trust of the media writ large. One of the things we're doing is just trying to be super transparent about the decisions we're making, how we cover the news, what resources we assign where. We have huge conversations in the newsroom all the time about what specific wording we're going to use to describe something. And I'm sure there are times we get it right and sometimes we get it wrong. But I want people to know, look, we're being intentional about this. We're doing our best. And let me draw back the curtain a little bit and share with you why we are making the decisions we make. And then, again, you can agree or disagree. That's totally fine. But at least this is how we're thinking about things. And we are approaching this with seriousness and respect and trying to do so with candor as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm in the same boat. I try to be I'm the producer of our daily news podcast, and I try to be very thoughtful about who are we allowing to come onto the show and give a voice to whatever topic. And we try to be very intentional about that. But yeah, as a producer, and I'm sure you experience this too, I pay very close attention to the latest news from local and national outlets pretty much every day, and that can be especially overwhelming right now. I'm curious how you find a way to balance that need to stay informed on the current issues, but also without overwhelming yourself too much.
Yeah, it's funny. You're correct that in jobs like ours, staying on top of the news cycle is not optional. We have to do it. I actually find the days that I am on air in the host chair for All Things Considered, I feel a little less frenzied, a little more in control, and I think it's just because I can do something about it. I'm under no illusion that I or any journalist are saving democracy on any given day, but I have questions about things. We can find people who may be able to answer these questions. Let me prepare thoroughly. Let me try to ask thoughtful and tough questions, and then share that with our audience. So I can do something about it. I am deeply sympathetic and empathetic to people who are, at home consuming our news or cable news or whatever they're getting on their phone, on their news feeds, and you feel your heart rate start to race and think, oh my God, it never stops. It's a fire hose. What can I do about it? In my case, this is not particularly original, but I will say I will speak to you. I'm speaking to you having come straight from a dawn yoga class in which I get on the mat and I think I can't check my phone even if I want to, so I'm not going to think about it. I'm in the moment. Sun salutation. Let's go. It works for me.
I do the same. Yeah, I try to work out 3 to 5 times a week, and I put my phone on silent and walk away. So
you're doing better than me. I'm lucky if I make it a couple times a week these days.
I want to pivot and talk about your book, It Goes So Fast. You're about to release it on paperback. It has been on hardback for 2 years now. A key thing you tackle is the reality of balancing being a prominent journalist and being a mother. How do you find that balance? And when you were writing about it, did that help you work it out at all?
Well, I'm not sure I have found that balance. That's very much a work in progress. I'm not sure any of us has totally figured it out. There are days where it all aligns and the stars and schedules align, and I manage to anchor all things considered and then go home and, make a lovely family dinner and everybody shows up and it's all perfect. Those days are few and far between. Most days it's a train wreck on any given day. So no, I don't know that I have found that balance, but I have learned to be a little more gracious and forgiving with myself. I've learned I have a few bright lines. I think about when the assignment comes in that I absolutely need to get on a plane and go somewhere, and it's absolutely a moment when my kids really need me. I've had more than one moment where I've thought, as a journalist, I'm good at my job. I work really hard at my job, but I am dispensable. Somebody else could get on that plane. Nobody else can be a mom to my kids. And that has been a bright line for me as I've had to make some difficult decisions. When I had editors asking, will you get on the plane and go back to Ukraine? And every bone in this journalist's body needed to get on the plane and go back to Ukraine and tell that story, but it would have bumped up against my son's high school graduation. And I thought, I can't do it. Somebody else is going to have to get on that plane this time, and then we'll keep figuring it out.
I definitely relate to that. On a personal note, my mother is experiencing a lot of health issues right now. And I know you dealt with the death of a parent recently. And it's like I have this need in me to want to stay on top of things, keep covering things. I am the producer of this podcast. We put out 5 episodes a week. It keeps me busy. And so, but also at the end of the day, my family matters. And, it's important to value and treasure the time that you have with them. So.
Well, and I wish you and your mother well, and I know those struggles so well. I think, the other thing, and I always think about, sad to say, but there will be another war, there will be another hurricane, there will be another this, there will be another that. Your mom, if she needs you, with my blessing, please, it's okay to feel okay about prioritizing that. And I say that as someone who's shown up and done a hard job many, many days at NPR, but who's also stood up in the middle of the broadcast when, a phone call came in, and it was my kid, and he's at the hospital, and you think, okay, I need to stand up, I need to go.
That was our producer, Jonathan Linden, speaking with NPR All Things Considered host, Mary Louise Kelly. Her book, It Goes So Fast, is available now in hardcover wherever you buy your books and will be available in paperback starting on April 8th. And that is today's show. Have a story idea for the Central Valley Daily podcast or feedback on today's show? We would love to hear from you. Just email podcast@kvpr.org. Today's episode was produced by Jonathan Linden and KVPR with support from the Central Valley Journalism Collaborative. I'm Elizabeth Arkalian. You can find the latest local news anytime at kvpr.org.
Each morning, it's a new opportunity, a chance to start fresh. Up First from NPR makes each morning an opportunity to learn and to understand. Choose to join the world every morning with Up First, a podcast that hands you everything going on across the globe and down the street, all in 15 minutes or less. Start your day informed and anew with Up First by subscribing wherever you get your podcasts.